Andrew Carnegie founded the Dunfermline Trust in 1903 through a handwritten letter in which the trustees were assigned the task of enriching the lives of the residents of Dunfermline. His exact words were to give the working masses of Dunfermline more of sweetness and light. As I visited Dunfermline, I discovered that simple direction, give people sweetness and light, was still honoured and continued today. Gillian Taylor, the CEO of the Trust, was gracious enough to have a chat with me. What are some memorable ideas from the letter?
So when Andrew Carnegie established our trust, he established it because he had bought the park. The park was somewhere he was not allowed in when he was a little boy. It was a private estate, so took great delight in buying Pittencrieff Park and Glen out here. He always described that as his most soul-satisfying gift. So when he bought that, he at the same time established an endowment for his hometown. So the letter I can almost feel him writing it. So he's writing to his first trustees, and he's asking them to spread sweetness and light. So, you know, we quite often in the boardroom when trustees are deciding on things, we'll go back to that statement. Is this going to spread sweetness and light to the people of Dunfermline? Yes, it is. So yes, we'll fund that. He wanted to make people life so people happier and better, which is lovely. He talks about happiness a lot. He was talking about the love he has for the Pittencrieff Park and Glen, and he said this is the foundation upon which you can build, which we still very much do, because we do think this is a wonderful space that's not just a beautiful park to walk in, but we can do education, we can do more for tourism, we can do events and activities that bring joy and sweetness and light. One of my favourite quotes is, "Remember you are pioneers and do not be afraid of making mistakes. Those who never make mistakes never make anything. Try things freely, but discard just as freely." Isn't that lovely? So he's giving permission to his trustees to try things, to do things, but not to get stuck in doing things. So if they try something and it doesn't work, that's fine. You move on. So I love that. He wanted to elevate Dunfermline so that people who lived here were elevated. And he says, "Pioneers always ahead" would be a good motto, which I think is lovely as well. But he was so forward thinking, because he was saying, as conditions of life change rapidly, you will not be restricted to your plans or the scope of your activities. So again, that permission to change. And I suppose my favourite quote in it at the end is something that I love. He said, "Let me commend a great truth to you, which has been one of my supports in life. The gods send thread for a web begun. Thread will be sent for that you are about to weave. I am well assured." And I think that's lovely, because he was basically saying there's something really good and special here in Dunfermline. And he wanted the trust to take that, but to take all the threads, these threads that were being given, and help weave that into the city. And I think that's lovely. And I think that's what we still do today, is we try and pull all the different threads. We hear about good stuff that's going on. We can either support that by helping with a bit of funding, or we can join people up. So it's almost like sewing and weaving that web, which I really like. So yes, I dip back into that, and our trustees do as well. We quite often go back to that founding letter, and I can just imagine him sitting up in Skibo Castle, writing it.
As Gillian mentioned, Carnegie, thinking forward, had written in a letter a reminder to the trustees that conditions of life change rapidly and that their scope of activities will also change with the times. So what does the Carnegie Dunfermline Trust do today, 120 years after it was founded?
Most of our work is we're a grant giver, so we give grants to local organisations, charities, clubs, schools. So a lot of our work is taken up with doing that, giving grants, and it's not big, huge sums of money. It's money that can make a real difference, though, to families, or we like to seed corn fund things. So, for example, if there's a really good idea, we quite often will seed corn, as a trust, we'll seed corn that, so that sort of sets the funding ball rolling. When the trust was first established, the trustees built a lot of buildings, because that was way back in 1903. So they built the swimming pool, they built the music hall, different things like that. So, but these days we don't do buildings, because buildings have all over the years have been handed over to the public sector, and we're more of a grant giver. But as a trust, we're much more than that. The Carnegie Dunfermline Trust oversee the Carnegie Birthplace Museum, which obviously where Andrew was born. It tells the story of the family struggle, and then when he got to America, what happened. But it's not just his story. It's the story of how he has inspired others to give. So he really was the sort of father of modern day philanthropy, and has encouraged so many other people to do that. And we carry on that work through the Carnegie Medals to modern day philanthropists. So as a trust, we oversee the museum, and we also do a lot of partnership working. For example, the trust still own this beautiful park outside here, but Fife Council, our local authority partners, they manage and maintain it. But we very much work in partnership to look at, what this is a great asset, what can we do, particularly since the COVID pandemic. We know that parks are so valued and so loved. So we're working very closely with them on a sort of plan of ambition for that. Dunfermline was recently made a city. Yeah. So we worked closely with other partners on the bid to become a city, and now we're working together on, now we're a city, what does that mean? What's our vision? What do we want our new city, although it's a very ancient city, our new city to be? So there's a lot of partnership working, and because we're such a long established trust in the city, we can really help with ideas. We can help pull funding in from various places. So there's a lot of collaborative work that we do, as well as our grant giving programme.
Judging by the extremely pleasant few days I experienced in the city, the Trust has obviously been serving its purpose of adding value to the lives of the people of Dunfermline. So much so that I found myself wishing I was lucky enough to have been born in Dunfermline. Nevertheless, I remind myself that I don't have to live here to be inspired and take as example Andrew Carnegie's positivity and optimism. So I was very glad to hear Gillian bring up this aspect of his character during our conversation.
And what I liked about when I had a look at your channel, and you were saying in that, the bit that kind of got me was, can you be rich and happy? Yeah. And I think Andrew Carnegie, for the majority of his life, was very happy, because he obviously was very rich, but he seemed to be a very, from what I can read, he seemed to be a very social, quite a charming man, and used his money to do good, and I think that gave him happiness. But I think he was probably quite a happy person. I can't remember the exact quotes, but a sunny nature and an optimistic outlook gets you far out.
A sunny disposition is worth more than fortune.
which again is a great, is a great thing to instill, because there seems to be quite a lot of anxiety and pressure on well-being, particularly in our young people just now. That again, that's another good kind of legacy to carry on. That actually, that kind of sunny disposition, looking for the positives, helps you a lot in life as well.
Repeating that line one more time, because if the richest man of the time says something is worth more than monetary wealth, I think it's worth examining. A sunny disposition is worth more than fortune. Wrapping up our conversation, I asked Gillian about the plans moving forward.
I personally think that the Trust has a huge role to play in the shaping of the city that we have become. I think Dunfermline is lucky that it's based on an ancient foundation of abbey and palace and royalty. But you can't get away from the fact that Carnegie also shaped the city. But he wouldn't want us to be a city that sits on our laurels. So for me, the Trust role is to help weave these threads that we talked about earlier, to be aspirational for our city, to kind of say, right, okay, this is, what do we want? What do we want the city that Andrew Carnegie would have wanted, and encourage entrepreneurs, encourage business, encourage tourists to come, but at the same time have that well-being in the centre, that sweetness and light, that kind of, but we as a city will look out for our people, and we will help our people as well. So the Trust will continue to do that. It will evolve and change as time goes on. But I would like to think that we will always be here to carry on Andrew's legacy in his hometown, because he obviously loved this place. And I think that's what we're here to do. So we will continue to spread sweetness and light, and we will continue to take all the golden threads that we can find and carry on his work.